In the 1960s, conditions in the slums of Rio were at an all-time low, with violent crime and gang warfare being at the forefront of the culture. No film better represents this than the award-winning 2002 crime film, City of God. The film follows a young man called Rocket, who aspires to be a photographer and leave the slums. He acts as the voiceover for the story and the audience's guide into a hostile and dangerous world. Though the film has become a highly regarded classic, the city is still to this day considered a treacherous and highly dangerous place to live, with crime levels having risen steadily in the last 3 years. And in this essay, I'll discuss the film's representation of the city and the truth it reflects on the life of its inhabitants, as well as its cultural relevance and impact on Brazilian cinema. So, to properly understand City of God, it's important to understand the historical context that led to the film's inception. The film is an adaptation of a book written by author Paulo Lins and is named after a western favela of Rio that was created to move crime away from the centre of the city. Paulo was a resident of the City of God from the age of 7 onwards, and so while the events in the film aren't exactly based on a true story, all of the elements in the story are based in real-world events that Paulo personally witnessed throughout his time growing up. Now, about the term favela, it is commonly used to describe a slum in Rio that's been impoverished due to governmental neglect, and it's known for its high crime rate and its prominence in drug trafficking. In an interview given to the New York Times shortly after the film's release, Paulo says the following about favelas. The elite is ignorant of the favela because it does not want to see, and the favela does not know the rest of Brazil because it is so deprived of the means and opportunity. The film portrays life inside the favela as its own sort of micro-society, with laws being enforced by organised criminals and the police being ineffective and easily fooled by said criminals, such as when Clipper tricks them into chasing down and killing an innocent man who they believe to be a criminal, while Clipper, the actual man they were looking for, seamlessly gets away. Furthermore, when a group of children called the Runts steal from a shop, it's Little Z's gang that's trusted to deal with them instead of the traditional authorities.
Escolhe, moleque. Quer tomar o tiro aonde? No pé ou na mão?
Escolhe logo, meu irmão, porra.
Bora, moleque. Mãozinha, né?
This was included in the film to show how order works within the favela and to show where the true authority lies. This also has a strong basis in reality, as in an article published in the year 2000, the journal International Affairs, Volume 53, it states that gun possession has endowed youngsters involved in the drug trafficking war with a military power that undermines traditional authorities. Each zone's laws are enforced by different gangs, with the zone that the film set in's gang being run by Lil Z and a rival gang being run by Carrot. Each zone's gang is shown to take pride in their level of control of their respective areas, with standards being set by the gangs. In an argument with Carrot, Little Z proudly exclaims, "Tell the kids in my slums no one robs or rapes." This means that there is in fact still a moral code within the favela that is enforced, but it is done by structured gangs filling the void left by an ineffective and uncaring state. The hopelessness of life in the favela is also depicted from a religious perspective. Christianity is very prevalent in Brazilian culture, with a visit from Pope Francis in 2013 to the slums, attracting 3 million people. And there are many times in the film that the criminals will refer to God as an act of faith in their struggles. The point the film makes is to show that God in fact does not care for them and that they have been abandoned, as seen when Little Dice has his name changed to Little Z. In the conversation, the voodoo man states that the conventional Christian morals and teaching have failed the city, and that the inhabitants need to create their own way, perhaps a less moral one, to survive. The film even takes the detail not to show Christ the Redeemer, a statue of Jesus that is one of Brazil's most famous landmarks, as a way of showing that God is not watching over them and they are to fend for themselves. In the introduction scene, Rocket finds himself in between both Carrot's gang and Lil Z's, and at this moment the film decides to cut to his childhood, which is an interesting choice as immediately we see the contrasting colour palette. There's no longer a blue cold tint to the frame, and all the colours are bright and exaggerated, which represents the nostalgia of his childhood, and as the film progresses, the colours become less exaggerated, the camera becomes less stable, with far more shaky, quick cuts, making it feel like we are more present to the conflict. This perfectly captures Rocket's perception of events as he's recalling them to us with nostalgic reflections of childhood playing in his head, which is shown to be like a film, while the second half stylistically is more like a documentary, with its shaky cam and unpredictable camera movements and quality. The narration, combined with the shaky cam, gives the film a feel of a documentary, especially with the character breakdown scenes. Lil Z's character breakdown features Rocket explaining Lil Z's rise to power, with him starting as a child and ending as a feared leader. The decision to give the film documentary elements was done deliberately to emphasise the social realism aspect of the film. When asked about this in a Channel 4 interview, lead editor Daniel Resenji had this to say: "What we tried to do with the editing was attempt to use effects whenever we thought this could bring something extra to the sensation or emotion that we were aiming to evoke. If the situation is tense, there's no time to think. We speed it up and make it tenser. If the character is going to be important later, then we freeze the face to commit it to memory. If both things happen at the same time, then we split the screen so as not to lose anything. In the third part of the film, we especially welcomed anything out of the ordinary for the editing style. If a badly made cut could increase the level of discomfort in the viewer, then we incorporated it." This last sentence especially highlighting the point previously made about the film deliberately going for a low-level production in order to ensure it has the greatest effect on the audience. Now, all these concepts of social realism has a very strong place in Brazilian cinema historically, due to its inspirations from Cinema Novo, a Brazilian movement throughout the 60s that placed heavy emphasis on a sort of intellectualization of concepts of social equality and social realism in the Brazilian favelas. It was said to address the fatalism of the working class. A part of what gives the film its unique substance over other productions is a fundamentally Brazilian identity, as its heritage is heavily in Brazilian production companies such as O2 Films, Video Films and Globo Films, which are all Brazilian production companies that are under 15 years old. And with a small budget like 3.3 million, the film is allowed to feel like an authentic piece of Brazilian culture. This is especially true with all the actors being actual residents of the favela with no previous acting experience. There's a first-hand connection between the actors and their respective roles. The film was distributed by Miramax a year after its release to a global audience, and its genesis among the Brazilian culture cannot be understated to emphasizing its legitimacy. Fundamentally, the film is a classic of Brazilian cinema, taking audiences into the uncomfortable depths of the Rio favelas and unapologetically showing them a gritty, dark reality that is iconic to the city and makes the film an important text to study for years to come.